Hey, I want to play a game because I like playing games. And this is a really easy game. I'm going to put a quote up on the screen, and I want you to tell me, was this quote talking about someone contributing to open source, or was it someone talking about contributing to the community? All right? We're going to do it. All you're going to do is raise your hand. I'm going to say, like, do you think it's community? Raise your hand. You're going to raise your hand. I don't think it's open source. You're going to raise your hand. All right? So let's go. I want to improve things for myself and others and pass on the help I've received. Raise your hand if you think that that was someone talking about contributing to open source. Okay. Raise your hand if you think that that was someone about contributing to community. So about 50-50. Okay, cool. That was community. So good job. Let's try another one. To fix an issue I'm experiencing or to add a feature. I had to throw like one underhand pitch in there, okay? All right, how many people think that that's about contributing to open source? Okay, how many people are still not awake yet? Think it's contributing to community? Curveball, no, you're right. That one's open source. All right, good job. We got a couple more. It's about paying it forward. I've gotten a lot out of it, so giving back feels like the right thing to do. Contributing to open source. Okay. Contributing to community. I think I see more hands for community. That one was open source. All right. And I've always felt some innate drive to contribute, even if I don't have a specific end goal in mind. Open source. Community. I think most of y'all have gotten this. I just got two more, and then we'll get on with the show, all right? Because my favorite way to interact with humans is to collaborate with them on projects that we all love. Open source. Community. And that was the last one. So hopefully I don't have to stand up here for 45 minutes and tell you that contributing to open source and contributing to community kind of feel pretty similar. But I do want to talk about some of the things that I've learned as I've tried to contribute to both. So my name is Jay Miller. As Mason mentioned, I work at Aiven. And this is an open source contributor's guide to community building. Actually, I don't like that title. How about, I like this one better. Okay, this is a community builder's guide to open source maintenance. I think that one's probably just as good, if not better. All right, so about me, I'm Jay. I live in Marietta, Georgia. I don't say Atlanta because people that are from Atlanta throw rocks at me when I say I'm from Atlanta. That's okay, we stole their baseball team. I am a big Braves fan, so there's that. I've been in developer relations for 5 years, and I've been in the Python community for a decade now, and that makes me feel a certain way. I'm also the dev role manager at Aiven. The thing I love most about working at Aiven is that I actually get paid to contribute to open source. Whether it's one of the products you may see on this screen here, I actually have contributed to the Valky project as a contributor to ValkyPy. Or Kafka or Postgres or OpenSearch. I've contributed content documentation as well as some community involvement in those others. And I'm known for a couple of things. Probably the biggest one is Black Python Devs, which was a community we started in 2023 that was meant to solve the problem that no Black Python developer should feel like they are the only one in the room. Take that. And I'm happy to announce that as of 2 weeks ago, we hit 1,000 members in our Discord. So there are 1,000 Black Pythonistas all over the world that now have a sense of community and belonging, and we're not stopping there. We're not stopping until we are the largest gathering of Black Python developers in the world, which we may already be there, but we can be bigger. Little known fact, I also have a couple of open source projects. In fact, I think I have 12 or 13 different packages on PyPI. Don't worry, they're all for me. I'm kidding, they're all for everyone else as well. I started this little project called Render Engine when I was in like a year in or 2 years into learning Python. if I'm being honest, it was a way for me to learn Python while I was at work because I was in marketing and I wasn't in engineering. And my boss said we needed a static site. And I said, okay, and Pelican wasn't doing it for me. No offense to anything in Pelican, but it just wasn't doing it for me. So I said, I'll build my own. What's the worst that could happen? Here we are some 5 years later, and it's a lot. It's fun. And then just last year, I created this really small project called Front Matter Check because I deal with a lot of front matter. I kind of like YAML, which just says something about me. Maybe I should lay off wherever Mason took us last night a little bit better. But the nice thing about front matter and YAML is it's really, really flexible. The bad thing is there was no way to lint it. So I built a pre-commit hook that serves as a linter for your expected front matter. So you know what you need. Other people might not know what you need. If they don't give you what you need, it gives them a nice little warning saying, hey, you need to add this as well. It's really simple, does its job, but hey, it works. And I use it all the time and I don't notice it until it breaks. And then we're happy. So as I was talking about render engine or front matter check or black Python devs, this was kind of me. Just looking at a problem, trying to figure out, how do I fix this? And then I got an idea, and that idea was great. Or at least I thought it was great. I thought it was the greatest idea in the world, like all of my projects, except for that one that cost me like 15 grand on Amazon 1 month. Don't do that. And then I said, you know what? This idea is so great, I need to share my idea with the world. And I think that is the story for most people who do an open source thing or a community thing. I've got this idea. I think my idea is pretty darn good. I'm going to share my idea with the rest of the open source community, and they can help me make it better. They can use it and enjoy it for free. They can adapt their own ideas off of what they're doing. In fact, I hadn't even thought about this idea until I read a book by a certain person in the room who's from Texas but now lives in New York. I heard he did a thing with a Zoom call with one of my friends earlier. I was like, dang, that was a good idea. I should have did that. But I noticed that when you give away your best ideas, they only tend to get better. So we create the repo, and this is what we're left with. And you might be like, pets? I'm like, yes, pets. Whether they're pet projects or your next big idea. You see, a good friend of mine and one of my mentors and one of my former colleagues, Pamela Fox, once told me, creating a new open source package or community is like adopting a puppy. It seems like a great idea in the moment, and you've got those big eyes just looking at you, and you're like, you're so adorable and you're so tiny, and there's no way that you'll ever grow to be this like tens of thousands of lines of code or these thousands of people that are expecting you to be available on call 24/7 that you have to make sure that you're taking care of at all times. And it's great and it's beneficial. And trust me, as the owner of a cat, 2 dogs, and a child, like all of these decisions were good ones, but sometimes I wonder. My friend David Lord, who runs Pallets, wrote this amazing blog post, and this is where I wish I had my notes because I actually copied a lot of the list of what he did here. He had a disorganized list of maintainers' tasks. And we're going to talk about some of those things, but I didn't want to steal all of his ideas, so make sure y'all go check that out. But it just talks about in detail, I mean, why do we need an entire council of people, like an entire contributor group to manage an open source project like CPython? I mean, you just put a bunch of developers in a room and, they write issues, they write code, they send pull requests, and then everybody's happy, right? Do we need a foundation? What does the foundation do? Well, the answer is a lot, actually. You have things that are code, and then you have things that are, oh no, I lost my symbol, not code, or code adjacent, like documentation, translations, tests. I think my friend Andy is probably here. Please test your code. Please test your community too. Have you ever tried that? Have you ever tried verifying that the thing that you're aiming to do is actually doing the thing that you thought it was doing? Because I see that a lot. I see a lot of communities, they'll come up to me and they'll go, hey, Jay, I would love to like increase like Black attendance at our group in Wyoming. And I just go, I mean, I would love for you to do that too. But I also just have to tell you, like, if you want like 1,000 Black developers, let's get 1,000 developers first. In fact, let's get 1,000 people living in the town. Like we'll get there. Again, some of these jokes are for people who I know that live in these areas that are watching this, and they're gonna look at me and go, hey, I saw that, acknowledged. But also we're in Texas, and I like to make fun of everyone in the great state of Texas, because what are they gonna do, kick me out? Good. Then you have things like messaging. I came from marketing, so the message is, Mason, do you remember that saying? The message is the message. Which means everything that you say is now a part of messaging. So if I ask the wrong person, hey, when is Python 3.14 coming out? And someone goes, I don't know, around September. And you go, oh, September? I thought it usually comes out in October. No matter what you said now, someone's gonna hear September from then on. And the engineers are like, why did you say that? We don't know yet. We have so many other things that we have to worry about and think about. And no one in our team has done anything like PR training. No one in our team knows how to respond to emails like from the press. No one knows what you say in Stack Overflow or Discord that might get you kicked out of a community because you thought you were anonymous. These things developers and maintainers have to think about. Me being a part of the Django Software Foundation's Code of Conduct team, if I say something outside of that Discord, I'm still held responsible. And that's tough for me because sometimes one community might do something that another community isn't okay with or doesn't fully agree with, and we have to figure that out, and that's tough. And I don't always like the answer, but having that background in marketing training, and I'm sure there are some people in here that do, and if you don't, that's okay. What I'm hoping that you hear with this is that you might have skills that those developers, those maintainers of the project, the people that just wanted to write code, no documentation, no tests, for some reason, don't know, they just want to write the code, you might have those skills that they need. And honestly, your contributions are just as valid. Especially when we start talking about like contributing content, links, email campaigns, SEO, all of those things. So now I'm gonna tell those maintainers, I know I've got a few in the room that have got some cool projects. I heard about some new ones this week, so I'm like excited about that. I wanna use Interrogate, that sounds really cool. You have to allow for that contribution to happen. So I'm not just talking to the people here. How many people here have a Python package that they maintain? How many of you, keep your hands up if you are the only person maintaining it? I only saw like one hand go down. I'm sorry, I was expecting that to be a larger number. How many of those people would like help with those? Okay, so there's a good one. There's a good one. How many people have said that publicly? I see hands like doing this, which tells me that like we've got things to learn, right? So there's this is stuff that's like, how do you expect people to help you if you never ask for help? I hear people always say like, I'm drowning in work. And I say, well, you know, the problem, this is why I don't swim in the ocean, is that if I'm so far out and I'm drowning and no one can hear me, then I won't be saved. So you have to allow for contribution, and you have to let people know what help you need. For instance, I was working full-time at Aiven and kind of also working full-time on Black Python devs, and it took us doing our leadership summit in Durham last year for people who were in positions of leadership to go, Jay, you do a good job of asking for help. and then you proceed to go ahead and do the thing in which you asked for help on, that doesn't work. And I said, okay, well, what can you do? And he said, you got to give up some control. And I was like, bet, I got you. And that's why we announced that we have regional executors now. So for North America, Laz, like I'm here working for Laz, not the other way around. And then in Africa, we have Afi, who has been wonderful. And this is just the start. We actually plan on increasing this executorship program into Europe and in Latin America. And we also plan on carving up a little bit of parts of Africa, because I'm sorry, there are more countries in Africa, there are more cultures and things to consider in Africa than one person can fully handle. And I'm so glad that we have a slew of people from all across the continent to help with that. And we're working on vice executorships and other programs that not only just add leaders, but train leaders, and then allow for handoffs as well. I also want to give a shout out on the technical side as well. We have Damilola, who has really just picked up our documentation. This is one of those things that we often neglect. We're like, yeah, we'll put it in the handbook. And he's like, no, we're doing it now. I've already filed the issue. I will get the PR in the next day. It is significant to have someone on our team that when we say we're going to do something, the first thing that he does is get to work on the area that is now his domain. It's all yours. You got it. And we're trying to launch a few more of these domain spaces as well. And of course, there are other communities like the PSF and the DSF that have things like working groups. So again, often there are places for you to go and contribute, even if you're not the most comfortable writing code, but you have some other skill or talent that you can bring to the table to help make those communities stronger. It's just a matter of making sure that those maintainers know that, hey, they should probably speak up about those things, but also you as an individual speaking up about your skills and talents. I bet everyone in here has some cool bar trick that they only take out at the happy hour, and they're like, well, you know what? I used to be a lawyer back in the day, so here's 15 different things. Trust me, I have a bunch of people right now trying to go to PyCon US that could use a lawyer's advice, especially if you are an immigration lawyer, or you can work on visas. There are a lot of people that need help, and they need help outside of writing lines of code. So if you have those skill sets, make sure that you're talking about it very loudly. And again, maintainers, that doesn't mean you got to wait for them. This is one of my favorite tools that I added to Render Engine, and actually it made it easier to understand who is capable of doing what. This is called All Contributors. And the thing that it does is it actually connects to your issues and your pull requests, so that you can just send a simple emoji and it adds that person as a contributor. And it has a pretty extensive system. So if for some reason I need help with something with Azure DB, and I go to my good friend Chris, who works at Microsoft, and I say, hey, Chris, I need your help with this. And Chris helps me, but never sends a PR in. Is Chris not a contributor to that project? Chris helped me, right? I wouldn't have the code added to this thing had Chris not taken the time out of his day to help me. So all I have to do is write the issue down of what the problem was, provide the solution, and say, hey, thanks, Chris. I don't remember what the one for a helping hand is, but we'll just say it's a high five. So I was like, emoji high five. And then it goes, Chris has been added to your contributors list as someone who helps with issues, or someone who helps with documentation, or someone who helps with translations, or someone who helps with coding. Someone who helped you do the research on the problem. Because again, a lot of people are often wanting to contribute, but it feels kind of weird when they do the contribution. Trust me, my first 3 open source contributions, the PRs were closed. Someone copied my code over because I didn't know how to use Git properly, merged it under their name. So I have contributions to both Microsoft and Elastic, 2 to Microsoft and 1 to Elastic, where my name isn't in the contributors list because I didn't know how Git works. Well, I knew how Git works. I didn't know how cherry picking works. Does anyone know how cherry picking works? Okay, cool. I know who to talk to. That's how that works, right? I have a problem, I say, hey, does anybody know how to do this? People raise their hand, and then we work together and we solve the problem. And then I give them credit. But, time for the warnings. When you have to do things like accept feedback or give feedback, remember, helping people can be both empowering and emotionally damaging. Depending on how you give that feedback, all you do are change 2 words. Either I am or am I doing a good or great job. Now, the worst thing is when you get no feedback, because then you don't know, you just don't know. So even things as simple as feedback, things as simple as, hey, that particular thing that you're doing, that's a really interesting thing. I've never seen that. Just wondering how you think about this thing, this new thing. Or, hey, did you consider this when you submitted this PR? But you have to do it in a way that's like, first of all, this is fantastic. You put in this hard work for it, and I'm really, really excited. This is great. We do have a minor hiccup here, have a little merge conflict that we're going to need to resolve, but great work. Because if you don't, then the response is just, I did a thing, the thing is done. And I know a lot of us don't like to get in our feelings. But if I don't start getting in mine, my wife is going to make me go to therapy. So if I'm going to do it, y'all got to as well, all right? So now, I'm hoping that the etiquette that I see in GitHub isn't just LGTM or looks good to me, but instead is like, hey, this looks great. Thanks for putting the time in on this. Honestly, if you want a trick, get a text replacement app and do 2 things. Extend LGTM to this looks great, thank you. There's a big difference. The other thing that you can do is take the word just, and anytime you type in just in a space, it just deletes the word. I've been doing that for 2 years now, and honestly, people have said, wow, your comments are direct and helpful, and it never feels like you're belittling the work that I've done. And honestly, it's me just typing away, oh, just head over to da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then like he sends it out as head over to da-da-da-da-da and do the thing. And I don't even catch that I've done it. And then it's like, oh, you're right. That does seem like I'm making something that I think is trivial actually look slightly better. So again, as we're giving feedback, we have to think about the other person on the other end. Because if we don't, we get this. This is the communication arm of Black Python devs. It includes a Twitter account, a LinkedIn page, a LinkedIn group, a Mastodon page, a Blue Sky account. Technically, we have an Instagram and a Threads account, but I gave up on those. An email, a website, Git discussions, and a Twitter, and a meetup with 3 different meetup groups, which don't meet in person, but all meet online, because meeting in person is still hard, and we're working on that. And I have to go get feedback from all of these places, because we rarely hear it coming inwards. And again, this is my problem to have, but think about that developer who has their 500 lines of code that they wanted to do to help share a project, and you said, oh, this looks great, cool, I'm taking this. And that person is like, no one uses my project. To the people who help contribute to the 5,000 downloads a month that Render Engine gets, I know they're not all me. Yes, I have some CI/CD. I don't got that much CI/CD. Thank you, and please communicate with me, because I thought that no one was using my project. And I was like, I'm ready to just destroy this thing, call it quits, and be done with it. And then I found out that I had adopted a puppy that had people looking at it. Not a lot of people in the grand scheme of things, but people, and people that I didn't know, and people that I wanted to still provide this for. But also, I was writing code like it was the Wild West. I'm the only user. I don't care what I'm doing in it, because I can solve all my problems. Well, you can't really do that when you've got people all over the world that rely on your code. you have to start doing things like actually using a change log and doing versioning in some type of way possible. And I'm not going to say if Calendar or Calver or Calver is the right answer. Yes, you should be doing Calver. I know the PEP got denied. It's fine. We'll submit it again. I'm kidding. But a lot of these maintainers are often looking for feedback. And you'd be surprised how fast that feature that you really wished this thing had would actually get if you asked for it. Nicely. I like that. Nicely. Yeah. And don't start it with just add. If it were that simple, it'd have been done already. I promise you. But the reason why we do all of these things is we're a worldwide organization. We have to extend our reach, because if we don't extend our reach, there's some conference that could use our help that doesn't get it. And that's what we internalize. Having empathy on both sides of that, those people that you wish that they would reach out to you. Again, now we're talking to the maintainers again. The people that you wish would reach out to you probably are just trying to get their jobs done. They're focusing on their work. They're stressed out. So again, I'm talking to both sides of the aisle here. And I know that it gets a little confusing and it gets a little hard to sometimes tell, why do I always have to be the person that does this? And again, if you've got that problem and you're using phrases like always, there's some good therapists out there that can help you unpack that. I'm not one of them, so I can't help with that part. But for every complaint that you have about why people aren't reaching out to you about how to make your project better, think about all the dependencies that you have in your project that you haven't reached out to them about how you could help them. Or just shout out that you use their product too, because again, marketing is the biggest form of flattery. Every time someone talks about something good I'm doing, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, I get a big boost of endorphins, and then I just want to work twice as hard. And then it leads to this. I get the one piece of feedback, or I find out that one thing that I missed doesn't work right, or we didn't support some event, so it didn't happen. And I sit there and I think, what is it that I could have done? My number of stars went down by 1. Oh my goodness, what was it that I could have done to make that better? It wasn't that someone misclicked. It wasn't that someone accidentally was trying to install some other thing, and it wasn't that. It wasn't that they thought that Jay is a horrible human being. But again, I got no feedback, so I'm running with all of those answers. That's just what's happening. So my message to myself as I'm writing this, and my message to all of you that are working on something that's cool, and you're wondering why so-and-so hasn't picked up your tool yet, or why it hasn't been on Talk Python or Real Python or one of these things. There's always more that you could do or that you could have done. But don't be so hard on yourself, please. If you're doing something, that's helpful. And that's great. And again, if you tell us about it, you will get a hand clap from me. I'll be that is awesome. Tell me about it. I want to know more. Because one thing I love doing is talking to people who are super excited about the work that they're doing, even when no one's watching. Those are the people that I feel like I want to go and I want to help day in and day out. But as our leaders will often tell us, we have to do that within our capacity. I pick on Kojo because once Kojo told me something about Kojo, what did you say?
In Durham?
Yeah.
I was concerned that your reach might be exceeding your grasp.
He was afraid that my reach might be exceeding my grasp. To which I thought was a good thing, and I flipped it on its head, and I said, hey, Black Python Devs helps people extend their reach beyond their grasp to do things. And he was like, you missed the warning. It's you said words that were like my words, but they weren't my words. We all have to operate within our capacity. People are going through a lot right now. I got a message earlier that was like, hey, have you seen the price of eggs today? It's a lot. I got to do groceries. What do you want? And I'm like, not eggs. I don't want those. People have all kinds of reasons to why they haven't responded to your issue, your PR. Hopefully they have done things like add those to their contributing.md that says, hey, just so you know, this is like a side project that I'm working on. I usually try to take the weekends to like clear all the issues out. If I don't answer right away, it's not because I'm ignoring you, it's just because I'm preoccupied with something else. Providing that level of context to things can be super helpful. It might also be that you put a problem somewhere where that person isn't checking. Again, we're checking everything now. We have to have the listeners on all the things, but if you go on Twitter and you say, I can't believe that this project doesn't have this thing that I want. And that person doesn't have a Twitter account, like, that doesn't help. That's you. It might help you in that moment, but it doesn't help that person, and it doesn't solve your issue. So just a reminder, like, as you're working on these things, as you're participating, as you're wanting to contribute, again, volunteer the services that you have, volunteer the skill sets that you have, but also make sure that the person on the other end has the capacity to get you onboarded into the thing. And if the answer is no, I hope the answer is never just no. I hope the answer is perhaps not right now. And a lot of the reasons why that happens is purely just out of capacity. Like this. This is often my capacity. When I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm not at work, I'm probably still slightly at work, and also managing being a husband and a father and a pet owner. Sometimes I forget about them. And a plant owner. I never forget about them. But I often go in these waves or these seasons of up and down, and it's often directly correlated to the amount of stress that I have in somewhere else, in some other area. So living life can be a challenge, especially when, again, things start to build up and you start to get pressure and you start to struggle. But when I look at how I prioritize my personal life when it comes to things that I do outside of my family, I think about it in this way. What's providing for my family? My open source work actually does, there is a number there. Canva wouldn't let me show it. It's 0.00001% of my annual income. So to the GitHub sponsors that I have, thank you so much. Y'all are valuable. And every time I sip a coffee, I sip it to you. And then the podcast that I've been doing for a few years, Conduit, it makes up 2% of my annual income. So sometimes I have to balance between, am I going to do this PR? Oh, wait, I've got to record now. Time to go. And then I'm off to that. But then my day job makes up the other like 97.9% of my income. And I want to be a good employee. I wore the shirt. Like, I'm doing the things. I'm constantly trying to balance my priorities, but I have to think about it in this way. My job pays my internet bill and my mortgage and my gas and my really expensive eggs. If I don't do that, I can't do the other things. One day that might change, but until then, I gotta stick with the capacity that I have. So again, when the person that you're talking to on the other end of the internet says, I will get to it, or hey, I'll take a look at it later, that's not them blowing you off. That's often them probably internalizing some graph that looks a lot like this and deciding I have to do what's best for the human part of me before I do what's best for the developer part of me. Because when I don't do that, and I get that piece of advice, and I get that inspiration, I get this mathematical equation. Ambition plus inspiration equals, does anybody have an answer? Burnout, that's a good one. Close, but no. Anyone else? Was that? Action? Yes, but in the worst way possible. Oh no, it didn't show because things don't like me. There we go, scope creep. This is my last piece of advice for maintainers of both communities and open source projects. This is a bad phrase. This is a curse word in my house. Anytime someone comes to me with what if, I'm ready to fight already. I'm already checked out. I'm already upset. Because I was once the what if person. Again, my project meant that I was learning Python while I was writing it. And that also meant that instead of writing strong documentation and strong testing and strong contribution documents and doing outreach and doing marketing, instead, oh, never mind, that's not in there. I took those slides out because I was worried about time for good reason. Instead, I would watch a video from Raymond Hettinger who was talking about something in more iter tools, and I go, ooh, that grouper function looks nice. What if I had that in there? Or someone comes to me and says, hey, have you heard about Pydantic? Jeff, I know you're listening. That one's for you. And no, I'm not adding it to the code base. There's so many times I've caught myself. I went to go work at Microsoft, and when I did, I really loved Azure Functions. I was like, Azure Functions are cool. And then we were doing this thing, we're like, what if you could serve like Fast API with Azure Functions? I was like, forget that. What if you could serve Render Engine with Azure Functions? That's what we're gonna do. I wasted so much time on that. And it took me starting Black Python Devs and Python Community News for the OGs that know, and having people work with me on these projects to go, hey, this is really hard to work with because there's like zero documentation. And I would go, oh, you're right. Hold on, let me fix that really quick. Let me go do that thing. And I would add it. And then, oh, hey, you don't have tests, and I'm afraid that my code is gonna break. Or you have tests, but you only test this one thing, and this other thing looks like a test, but it's not really a test. Yeah, okay, I'll get on that too. So you see, the thing that has that developer's attention at that moment is like usually the thing that they're gonna work on immediately. So again, the more people that go, hey, I would love to help with the documentation on this, it's like, great. Or the people go, hey, I would love to help more with the testing on this. Fantastic. We should do more of those things. But then you have the people who come to Black Python Devs and say, what if we, or not even what if we, they usually say, what if you? And then I say, well, what if I? How about what if we? And they go, no, what if you? What if we do a lot? What if we, in our first year, host in-person conferences, create meetups, create a job board platform, a paid internship program. We partner with Fortune 500 companies to have them hire in countries in which they don't have legal entities and therefore are not able to hire in. What if you hire a visa attorney? What if you seek federal grants even though you're not a grant writer? What if you launch an open source mentorship program? What if you start a book club? And then what if you sponsor individual attendees to attend conferences? We tried that once. It was really, really great. Until it wasn't. That's a lot. And sadly, we said yes to a lot of these, probably more than we should have. And yeah, it was a little stressful. But eventually we stopped and we focused on the mission. How many people here love going into the engineering meeting and go, let's get back to first principles? How many people want to like immediately kick that person from the call every time it happens? I don't like using the phrase first principles. We can talk about that later. I like saying first values. What if we focus on the first values of the mission? Let's focus on the mission here. Our mission is to extend the ecosystem of Python communities to Black and colored communities around the world. And that means that we have to think about, is the thing that we're doing achieving that outcome? Again, I talked about this earlier. Have you ever tested your community? Is the thing that we're doing working to achieve the outcome that we're looking for? So some of the suggestions that we did do last year, we did do an in-person conference, but instead of it being a general conference, a part of our goal is to extend leaders across the globe. We want to build Black Pythonistas who are leaders. We did a leadership summit. We did do a meetup. We did an online meetup. The online meetup is doing much better than the one in-person meetup that we tried. We did do an open source mentorship program. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. And we did start a book club. In fact, we actually partnered with O'Reilly, and now we work to also give books out to Black Pythonistas in areas where getting physical copies of books is challenging. And then we looked at our spending, we looked at our resources, and we said, you know what, let's focus on the mission. Let's make sure that we're not spending all of our money on services, and instead we're sponsoring events. I'm happy to tell you now that this spreadsheet looks a lot different because we're investing in more and more meetups, because I think I heard someone earlier this morning say that community starts at the local meetup and not at the conference, which is something that I've been saying as well. Again, I think he got it from me, so. And instead of creating a job board, we worked with amazing people like Vini and Paris Chandler. And we send people to their job boards because they can do a much better job if we're giving them the feedback that they need to help extend their missions into our community. And then when we know about something directly in our pipelines, we'll still share it in Discord. We'll let people know what's going on. Also, that advocate position's closed, I'm sorry. That's on my team, that's how I knew about it. That person starts in May. And instead of launching an entire open source mentorship program, instead, how about we invest in those who are willing to do it? And we do that a few ways. We work with Prelude. Well, we've worked with Prelude. We did a trial run to just experiment and see what would it look like to bring professional workshops into different areas of Africa who normally don't have access to them. This was our most expensive experiment to this date, and we learned a lot of valuable lessons. Things that you don't ever think about, like the time of day, the time of year, what local events are happening. Like a farmer's market will disrupt your workshop. I promise you. We've sponsored 2 Django Girls events this year with plans on sponsoring more. And then we took an idea and a code base from a workshop that was held last year in Harare, Zimbabwe. And we reached out to that Black Python developer and we said, hey, is there any chance that we can fork your open source project and use it as a starter pack so that folks who want to build their own workshops in their local areas where there aren't any events don't have to worry about the curriculum and instead can worry about all the logistics? And I'm happy to announce that last week we held our first one in Enugu, Nigeria, which was super awesome, had an amazing turnout. I wish I could have been there. Someone called me and said, hey, do you want to get up at like 2 a.m. and give like a 5-minute like intro? And I was like, absolutely not. I'm going to delegate that to you. You can do it. I believe in you. And instead of having contributor programs, we just have a simple get static website. It's not running render engine because I have my own anxieties about that. It'll happen soon, I promise. But it's a simple Jekyll page, and when people say, hey, I want to learn how to contribute to open source, we let them start with us. We let them work on ours, and it's funny, we did an open source project, open source mentorship program. We had 40 people in that open source mentorship program. I look at the number of contributors that we have on our website, and I go, probably should have doubled down on that one, because that was a lot easier and less stressful. So when you have engaged users, eager participants, people who want to step up, like these fine folks who I never give enough love to who have helped me on Render Engine, you become a little bit more flexible, you become a little stronger, and you kind of just feel like a rock star in general. So to all of those people, I thank you. Y'all have to stop clapping. I have 20 seconds left. So here are our goals for Render Engine. If you want to work on them, feel free to just reach out to me. If you think static site generators are dope, I do too. I'm trying to make one that rivals Django in power. So let's do that. Black Python devs, we have a lot. And of course, I want to mention this as I run over time. At our current funding rate, we can operate for another 1.25 years. I want us to fix that. I refuse to sacrifice helping others. I will just spend my money if I can't spend yours. So if you want to help with that, our goal for PyTexas is $1,000. That's about $5 from each of you. You can donate today. If you want to use that, you can. If you want to use the QR code when we get there, that's fine too. And I'll end my talk there and leave that up on the screen for folks that want to help. Thank you very much. I've been Jay Miller. I hope you have a good rest of your PyTexas.